All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we feeling on a beautiful Monday afternoon?
I feel great.
You feel great.
It was a beautiful day.
Beautiful day.
You know, busy.
Yes.
Lots of moving and shaking. How did the weekend go for our competition here?
Oh, this guy's such a joke show.
So that means it went well for you.
By the way, why don't you explain this one? Fur. You wrote fur in the group text. What does that even mean? Or
I
does
wrote
that
fur. Oh, like basically mocking you guys because you thought you were so cool. So
so you spelled that noise Phurr?
Yes.
That's I looked. no, that is. I can do PFFF like. Pff.
Yeah,
I get that one, but fur for that noise?
Yes.
No way.
Yes, it's a great noise.
I thought it was like a kid saying like for serious.
No. It's a sound.
You made a noise in a text.
I made a noise in a text to mock these guys.
Phurr, and I'm like, this guy's a fraud.
That was what I made sure the boys heard because these guys, it's a marathon.
Yeah, they were
not
11-1 or whatever, being heroes, and that was it.
These guys they're the guys who get first in line at a marathon, come out flying, so they're in all the videos and the pictures with their flags and letting everyone know, hey, look at me, I'm in New York or Boston or whatever.
Yeah.
And then by the finish line, they're in the sewers somewhere.
Guys picking the cones up right behind you.
Exactly. These guys are so horny because they're leading a marathon like a mile and a half into the race.
It's fairly significant, I will say that.
So
I don't think so. And I am hot on your tails.
You made some ground?
I'm starting to see the board, and I'm seeing it very well. And I'm seeing it tonight, too. I got the Eagles-Tampa game.
You honestly, when you say that, you sound like Donald Trump. You're like, it's 10-1, and then he's like, I'm seeing the board, and I'm seeing it very well.
Well, you were 2-0-1 your last three.
I'm 3-0-1, and I had that push because New Orleans decided to allow Carolina to push the number. But it's 10-4-1, dude. You keep thinking that this was week 1, week 2. Like
10-4-1.
It's going to be 10-6-1 after tonight because they're going to puke all over themselves on their game because they don't know if Joe Burrow's playing or not. I got Philly at Tampa, and everything's starting to move in the right direction. We got hockey games going. The Jays are red hot. They took 2 or 3 out of the Trop, right? The Ryder Cup this week. It is a thing of beauty right now.
I watched a lot of sports yesterday, and I felt bad for my guy Kirk Cousins again. Like this guy. I felt terrible for him. Although he had nothing but an opportunity to win that game.
Of course he did. 0-3 Kirk. You like that? You like 0-3 Kirk?
I don't like that. I don't like that because I wanted him. I wanted him. They got an opportunity to finish it off, and it gets picked off on like a greasy pickoff play.
Yep.
I'm over that guy. He's jammed me up 3 times, that son of a you-know-what. I cannot do it with that guy. And you know why I'm done with it? Because I actually thought he could take it seriously, and people consider Minnesota like to have talented people and to be a good team, and that guy just seems to piss things away. It drives me nuts.
But he's a statistical darling, right?
That's what it is. He's an analytic darling.
Analytic darling.
375
His numbers are always great. He's got the best wideout in the game. Like Jefferson, he catches 140 yards worth of catches every single week.
He's unbelievable.
Gets into the end zone. The guy's an absolute machine. And they got young weapons around him. That Addison's a good player. They got Hawkinson at tight end. Like, they have a ton of weapons. They can't get stops. The Chargers, they were as desperate as Minnesota, and now Minnesota is in big trouble. But we're burying the lead, let's be honest. The story of the season. And I know you think I'm going to say Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
That's right. I thought you were going to go.
I'm not. It's Sean Payton, who talks so much smack. How arrogant was Payton all year? How about if I'm Nathaniel Hackett, I'm calling Payton right now saying, what's up? It's the Hack. I'm up in New York. I know we stink. FaceTime. If I'm Hackett, I'm FaceTiming Sean Payton.
And he won't send back the or whatever.
He probably will. Hackett should just send him one long.
Yeah, with his butthole.
Yeah.
Say, Patesy, how do you like that?
How do you like me now? How do you like me now? Do you know how embarrassing it is to get 70 points hung on you?
Dude.
And here's what's even. I think
They could have kicked a field goal.
I think that's even more embarrassing. I think to have pity taken on you when you've given up 70 is even more embarrassing. I would have preferred they kicked the field goal. Like, you've already destroyed us.
Right.
You've buried us. You've poured the soil back on.
Like after
just kick
50 was Tua even in the game?
That's a great question. I wasn't even watching.
I wasn't either. And I'm like, this guy can't be in the game after a 50 spot. That would be insane. But still, whoever the hell went in that game put up another 20 as a cherry on top.
The running backs ran for 1,000,000 yards. They got great weapons. Like, the Dolphins are clearly a great team. But there are a couple of people I want to hear from today, because Sean Payton was so snippy after the game. And I said this coming in. Payton's a great coach. There's no disputing that. He's won a Super Bowl. But everyone was saying Russell Wilson's got to prove something. Payton's won nothing without Drew Brees playing Hall of Fame caliber quarterback down in New Orleans. Payton's done nothing without Drew Brees. And if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm flying back saying, hey, man, that's on you. You can't blame me for this one. And if I'm Nathanial Hackett, I'm sending a note to Payton and company saying, what's up now?
Yeah.
Like, let's hear you talk smack now about the worst coaching you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just pathetic. And I'm curious, because you guys can put your shoes in the skates of the Vancouver Canucks. We can't put our shoes in the cleats of the Denver Broncos. But what do you think is more embarrassing? Taking context out of it, regular season, preseason. A football team losing by 50 or a hockey team losing by 10? What is more embarrassing?
A football team in the regular season.
That's what it is.
Okay.
I didn't dissect the lineup of Vancouver, what they sent to Calgary.
They didn't have
any. Sometimes you're sending a bunch of kids in a poor lineup, throwing them to the wolves, saying, you're going to go get caved in there, so let's see who can stand out and maybe show something, and who's got some jam, or who's going to fold up tents, or it's a guy that's been in the organization, you want him to maybe take a leadership role, and you get caved in. But 10-0, it still is. It's like preseason, the year I tried to make my infamous comeback. Mm-hmm. We lost after a preseason game, and Lavi closed all the doors, and it was one of those meetings and I was like, we're 2 games into preseason, and I'm already getting an organizational yelling at from Lavi because they were under the gun. They had to get it, their you-know-what together and get back in the playoffs. And that's when I just said, I can't do it. I'm just, and you don't want that early into training camp. I don't know if Rick Tocchet and company gave it to him, but it surely wouldn't be pleasant getting on a bird or a bus or back in the locker room after losing 10 Cobb.
No, but it is clearly the Broncos. Clearly. That's a regular season game.
I know.
And you are fighting for your lives. Now you're 0-3.
Yeah, they're done.
And you're also... It's the context. It would be like Tocchet running his mouth off, being a hero coming into the season, and then getting rinsed like that. It's clearly the Broncos, but you don't want to lose 10 Cobb anytime.
10-0.
But it was. I was watching that game last night, and I was like, okay, this is just a throwaway. Calgary had like 24 shots on goal. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't like they had 60 shots on everything. By the end, Calgary was just like trying to play 5-on-5. They were throwing the puck at the net. It would just go in. It was ridiculous. It was one of those
Noodles.
Next
week, we're starting a segment next week. It's called Get 'Em on the Horn. People we'd like to talk to after the weekend. I would love to talk to Nathanial Hackett today.
Yes.
I'd like to talk to Payton today. Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk to Jerry Jones today and find out what the hell they were doing out in Arizona losing that game. Mm-hmm. I'd also like to talk to Pierre LeBrun, who was sending me messages about his Cowboys, and I said, why don't you suck on that one? How do you like that one? Do you like that?
That one hurt. That one hurt.
As far as
Kirk
the
Cousins,
Denver
too.
mess, far as the Denver mess, garbage last year under Hackett. Russ is a mess. And then Payton comes in and they're garbage again. And then you got guys saying, I've been here for 7 years. I'm tired of the losing. It was one of their linebacker or linemen or something. Yeah, he was all distraught and he's like, I'm sick of losing. I think the focus goes on their general manager because maybe it's just plain and simple the team that's on, like the team's garbage. because that guy might be under fire next.
That's
because you've
hard to argue
gone through
against.
You've gone through 2 coaches, and the results are continuously embarrassing.
Is Elway still there?
Elway's still
He's like
affiliated with
like
the
he's
team.
Still somewhat. He's
yeah,
high
he keeps
up there.
moving further
Even
up.
like Cam Neely.
Notice how you haven't heard much from that guy in the last year.
Johnny, he's not around much. He's not.
It's an embarrassing loss. You're right. Like, would you have rather? Now, I believe the highest score was 73 to tie it. Correct.
72, I believe.
Okay.
I think the field goal was going to set the new record of 73. And Tua did come out like early in the fourth quarter. They just kept running the ball and just carving through that defense.
It was nonsense. I didn't watch much of that game because
man.
You're looking at the score, you're like, that's a
well,
throwaway.
exactly. Like once it was a blowout, and I kept just seeing it scroll, and I'm like, does that say 70?
Yeah.
Like I was flabbergasted. I could not believe it. And it was a wild day for survivor pools because there's another guy I'd like to get on the horn. That's Doug Peterson with his visor.
You son of a Doug Peterson.
The Jags.
Call me.
Yes, we want to hear from you, Doug, because that was the Jags got blown out by Houston at home.
Right. Yeah.
Dallas lost.
And Hayes, when we were
Green
talking about
Baltimore
Survivor,
lost. Green Bay's
when we were
alive.
talking
Green
about
Bay's
Survivor, we talked about Jacksonville. It's like they're not the Jags of the old. Like they're going to dummy Houston, but they're just the Jags still. They're just the Jags still,
They
and
are.
they lost to Houston.
They are
Make me,
still the
Dougie,
Jags.
call us.
Dougie, we want to hear from you. And we wouldn't mind hearing from Taylor Swift as well. Because, you know, I was thinking about while news was breaking that she was at Arrowhead. I understand her popularity. She is a massively popular A-plus list superstar. One of the pop superstars of the last 30 years.
Before you finish, Hazy, Joe
Yes.
from the Bridge, get the viz of them getting her out of that box.
Are you sure that was true?
I'm telling you, she had to get put in a popcorn machine and taken out in a popcorn. Joe from the Bridge, you have to get it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It was literally.
There are allegations that they
Yeah.
had to sneak her out of the luxury suite
Yes.
in a popcorn
like holder.
Tin
or
can.
container, basically. I find that hard to believe, but I guess anything's
Is
possible.
it just because the suite has
Look
access?
watch
Yes.
this. I would bet money that Taylor Swift is in this aluminum container with popcorn on it as a disguise. There she is, right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of
So
people
that's like
that
a
believe-
magician. They open that up and Taylor Swift's in there.
Basically, she
and
pulled a Houdini.
Yeah, it's kind of low key. The lady working at the stadium could have just said, "Okay, let's make this low key," and it's just right down to the parking garage and into a limo and gone. I would guarantee that would be the method to do it.
I wouldn't be surprised because it's probably a security risk. You can't have her just walking around. Like,
No,
she's
dude.
too big, and it's
She
too
went to
much.
dinner in Jersey a couple weeks ago, and it was literally they had to call the cops to get everybody under control.
Yeah, it's too much.
People are crazy.
It's too much.
Is it her or is it Messi now? Who's more popular?
Oh, it's in North America.
Oh, I don't
it's
want.
Taylor
Don't
Swift.
you start right
in the
now.
States, it's Swift, no question. Messi, I'll grant you.
world,
Around the world, there's certainly in Argentina. Although Swift in Argentina, I'll bet you would cause waves. She's probably going down there soon.
I feel like she's as big as Michael Jackson.
Yes, that's the level she's on. She's the queen of pop.
Right.
Like she's so massive, so popular. And yet, with all of that said,
Yeah, this guy.
Travis Kelce is not some pigeon who plays special teams. Like we were talking about it last week that maybe his skis were up over the hill a little bit too far when he went public saying, I've invited her out. You think he would put himself in the position to look like a buffoon by saying that publicly without knowing she was coming? Like now it makes sense.
Yeah.
He knew she was coming. He knew that he had her dialed in the luxury suite. He wasn't going on Pat McAfee and saying, hey, I invited her and it'd be great if she came, blah, 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 then make himself look like a complete loser. This guy is a first ballot Hall of Fame, arguably greatest tight end of all time. Super Bowls, records, everything. Yes, it's Taylor Swift, but put some respect on Travis Kelce.
I agree.
Kelce's not putting himself in a position where he looks like an idiot. He knew she was coming.
I thought the comment of the night was from Belichick.
Yes.
Belichick's quote about it. I don't know if you saw that, Like it was.
You want to hear it? We have it.
Do we have it?
Yeah, you want to hear? Okay, Belichick.
That's a quote of the night for me.
Like, again, the Patriots were not playing against Kansas City. They were in New York, beating Zach Wilson, your boy, and the Jets. And here's what Belichick had to say post-game.
Well, I would say that Travis Kelce's had a lot of big catches in his career. This would be the biggest.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Pretty big.
Loving him was red.
All right. Question.
Yeah,
That's
so
the coach talking this morning.
yeah,
I
that's
think,
a radio
right?
show
Yeah.
in Boston, the Greg Hill show. So
Wow.
everyone's being asked about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And was it a bit much to show her every other snap? Sure, but
That's the thing.
the biggest
She's
thing
the
in the
one
world.
person, if you're dating, it's like, hey, can we kind of keep a low profile with this? And somebody could get away with sunglasses and a bucket hat, not her.
no, it's impossible.
No. Somebody would
impossible.
pick her out, and it would be a gong show if she tried to get smuggled into the building.
Yes.
And although, you know what? If she had her hair up in a bun and a bucket hat and glasses, like, who knows? Maybe anybody could pull it off.
I
what I mean?
Well-
but she needs security around her all the time. There's a lot of people that are, unhinged
Tunes.
that
Yeah.
that think they're best friends with her, that are in love with her. All of these things, like security has to be taken very serious with a star of that magnitude.
Absolutely.
So I could see, like, when you pointed, I thought the popcorn thing was like a small little, like she had to crawl into a box like the Gimp. That's like a stand up, like wheeling her out.
Yes, that's like
I could see
security
that
101,
100% happening.
diversion, no one's
Yeah.
paying attention. And there was this is where the internet is undefeated. There were so many great comments about Jackson Mahomes being so bitter that she was there and he's trying to do TikToks and no one's paying attention to him. They're
Dude,
like,
I bet you Mahomes' wife was bent out of shape about it, too.
Who knows?
I guarantee you, man.
I mean, there's nothing bigger than
guarantee you.
Swift. There's nothing bigger than T Swift. And she was there last night. And, the Bears are a disaster, and the Chiefs absolutely laid a beating on them, and everyone kind of saw that coming. But still, it was a wild day yesterday, and we got a doubleheader tonight. Again, another two-pack on a Monday night. So Luke Wilson will be in studio at 5. Leafs are playing tonight, too, at home. And the Jays are off. They're back in action tomorrow. We got 6 games left for the Jays, right?
Yeah.
And they put themselves in a position where
think they're in, right?
They're statistically, again, take this with a grain of salt.
Let's
It's like
don't get crazy.
97% chance they get in.
Yeah.
I think if they win a couple more games, they're in. If they win 3 more, they're definitely in. They go 3 for 3, they're in, 100%. I think if they get 2 more wins, they're probably in too. So they've set themselves up well. And yesterday, it was the Springer, Bichette, Vladdy show. Vladdy hit 2. Springer had that inside the park home run, which was electric.
But defensively, he was unbelievable.
Outstanding. Like, that's what they've been waiting for all. And again, I'm not getting carried away because it happens, over the weekend and it happened yesterday. But this team is built on Springer into Bichette into Guerrero. Like, that's what is necessary for them to get cooking. And we saw it yesterday. And that's going to be necessary for them to do any damage come the wild card, into the divisional round if you can get through. And as of now, it sets up you're either going to Tampa or you're going to Minnesota, and everyone on earth knows what you're preferring at this point. But you're not going to mess with karma and try to lose games and throw.
You're just trying to make it.
You just got to punch a ticket, and you just took 2 of 3 in Tampa, so you feel good about the last time you were at the Trop.
I'm
right?
not buying into some of these. Like, my brother called me on Saturday, who's a diehard, and he was like, I think they're scaring people, and I think a long run, and I'm like the Phillies last year, and I'm just like, I'm not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a couple people on the putting green or calling me saying, I think they're getting people's attention. If they can get hot with the bats and the pitching stays as is, I from what I've seen this year, I just cannot buy into that they're getting people's attention. Could they be heating up? Yes, but getting people's attention, I'm not sure about that one.
No, I'm not there either. What I will say is, Baltimore's been so good all year. They're still young. Tampa's been very good all year. They're dealing with injuries and other stuff. The AL West is just completely fallen off. Like, Houston may miss, which is amazing. Seattle, Texas, whoever gets in, they're going to backdoor their way in. And Minnesota stinks. Minnesota's going to have like 85, 86 wins in the worst division in baseball. So in the American League, it may not be about scaring anyone. It may just be about you play above average ball, you got a chance.
Survive and just sneak in.
But that doesn't only apply to them. That applies to Tampa, Baltimore, Texas if they get in, Seattle if they get in, I guess Minnesota. Like, I guess that's how I would describe it is I'm not sure you circle a team in the American League and say that's terrifying. Like, Atlanta's terrifying. The Dodgers are terrifying, right? And they deserve that reputation. And if you play them, you're in for one, and you're going to be a heavy underdog. Any matchup in the American League could break any possible way because it just doesn't have the heavy hitters that the National League have had all year. And I think that would include Baltimore, who've stubbed their toe a little bit. Likely to get in now. Jays did them a favor over the weekend. Likely to get in, winning the AL East, get a bye through the wild card round. But I don't see a scary powerhouse in the American League. And the Jays wouldn't be classified that way either. But it gives them I think that's a better opportunity.
Fighting chance.
Yeah, if you're an inconsistent team, you want to go up against a bunch of inconsistent teams, and I think that seems likely.
Yeah.
Steve Phillips in about 10 minutes. We'll come back and look back on the weekend. The Leafs played last night. They play again tonight. There is some news coming out of Leaf camp in terms of what we could see with some of the special team decisions, including some big names for the penalty kill that appeared to be on the horizon. That and more still to come. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
I'm going to find the guy who decided to think he was funny making golf balls with my face on them. There was a couple years ago where the Leaf game panned to my face out of the blue, and I was like, it was a big save. And for some reason, the camera just came to me, and I was like, Now that some guy thinks, Joe, look at this. Somebody found this and sent me this. It's like, why? No, it's not funny.
It's hilarious. That's the Freddie Anderson save. Do you remember that?
That's Freddie Anderson, post to
and
post.
somehow the camera goes to me, and that's my face, and somebody thinks it's funny. That is on a golf ball, and I'm going to find out who that is.
That's
great.
Disappointing, man. That is really disappointing. And I actually found one of your golf balls out at my track. Like it was deep in the muck. And I was sniffing around looking for mine because I had snap hooked one in there. And I pulled it out and it said O-Dog on it. I'm like, this is your ball probably from like 3 years ago.
I love it.
Little hook off one. I think it was your second shot on one. You snap hooked one deep into the danger zone. I went out and found it. And I'm like, there's the O-Dog's ball.
I love that.
I've never, dude, you on the first hole? I birdie that hole every time.
That's
I've
not
never
true.
been in that.
That's not true. I remember your cart. I had a vision of you driving left, looking for your ball, and then coming up, and you hit another one that you hooked the second time. We'll talk off air. It doesn't matter, but I've seen you do. You have birdied that hole. I will grant you. Oh yeah, this is it. Actually,
this is where you found it.
This is where
that looks like.
So you're in the middle of nowhere.
Look there. Look at. Oh, I found something here. That's my Instagram account. B Hayes on air. Every once in a while. O-Dog. There it is. Yeah, that was. I had to document that one. I forgot I posted that.
I remember that.
All right, so Leafs are back in action tonight. And I think some of the news of the weekend that came out was that Auston Matthews is going to penalty kill this year. I think they're thinking of testing William Nylander on the PK as well. And I guess the reason this is news is because Matthews has never done it before.
Yeah.
Like never even I don't recall him ever even trying to penalty kill during the regular season.
Do they, like if there's 9 seconds left in a penalty kill?
Possibly
like,
that. But like to start a kill in your own zone, he has never been on the ice. Ever.
No.
And he's 7 years into his career.
It's an adjustment. I don't know. The only thing I would think of, from a positive standpoint, I think you look at all top players kill penalties. McDavid and Draisaitl do it in Edmonton. The negative standpoint is if you have a certain number for minutes for him, is that going to change? Because you still want
Jamie, just the idea of being involved in the game. We've talked about the games nowadays. It's a special teams contest. And if you get a bunch of penalties, he's sitting on the bench for 7 or 8 minutes. Can't have it.
Right.
So it might be like a spot duty type penalty kill, like you said, 9 seconds left, or get out there and give me 20 seconds, get it down and get off. But you think about that guy taking advantage of a penalty kill, a forward on defense. I love the idea. You make $13 million a year, or you're going to be. It's like go out there and just be a well-rounded player. I don't think it's a bunch to, too much to ask.
No, I think it's fine. But my question was, if he never killed penalties in the last 7 years and his average minutes was what, 22, 23? And he's going to kill penalties. How does that affect the minutes that he plays? That's
you can't
the
have
question
this
I'm
guy
asking.
playing 28 minutes.
Can't have him playing 26, 27. So does that take away from his 5-on-5?
That's where
That's my question.
I think it's a gamble to do that. I think a lot of penalty killing is instinct, it's hockey IQ, willingness to sacrifice, which scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
This guy goes down to block a shot, breaks his foot, breaks his finger, something like that, which is suboptimal. But Marner's been killing penalties his whole career. And the reason why Marner always leads the team in minutes played is because he kills penalties.
Right.
You look at the game sheet at times after a game, you're like, man, this guy played 27 minutes because he had 5 minutes on the kill, he had 4 minutes on the power play, and that's how it adds up. I think Matthews is clearly in shape to do it, although that's another part of it, and you guys can attest to it. It's Marner doesn't mail in shifts, but the wing position can allow you to stop your feet. Yeah.
Right.
Matthews is battling down low. He's a bigger body. I don't know how that's going to affect his 5-on-5. I would think it might take something away from it, and that's possibly why Nylander's in the middle of the ice as well. They're trying to gain as much, depth and impact up the middle of the ice, where if you're going to start scattering some of Matthews' minutes on the PK, maybe you're going to take it away on 5-on-5. But he seems to be up for it. I guess he's not going to have a choice, right? If the coach is telling you you're going to kill penalties, and you got to get out there and kill. Same thing for Willie. Willie's never done it either. Like, Nylander's never been a penalty kill guy.
Yeah.
But
I know Joe from the Bridge is pointing out that Matthews led the league in blocks for forwards.
block shots
year.
he did last year, yeah.
A little bit different, though. Like, I think, going back to the point on a 5-on-5, you're already cheating towards that defenseman. On 5-on-4, you're farther back, because if you're playing a diamond or you're playing a different type of setup, that blocking a shot from that high umbrella, that's a ways away. Like, you're a target instead of
you
getting...
got to do the job properly. You can't really
Right.
say to a star player, but if there's any kind of shot coming in, just kind of do the flamingo and don't acknowledge it.
Right.
It's like, well, then what the hell are you doing out there? I think there's a way of doing it where you got to be smart about it, but it's such a difficult thing. I always believe the talented players on the ice can read and react because they know what the opposition's going to do, because they're smart thinking players, and they're always on the power play, so they have knowledge of what goes through the power play guys' minds. I don't know, man. You getting a shot block like that.
It is scary, man. It's like, again, you can't bubble wrap guys.
Yeah.
And like you said, McDavid does it, Draisaitl does it. A lot of star players. Sid's killed penalties throughout his career.
I think if you go back in the day, like, I'm pretty sure Mario was out in the penalty kill. So was Gretz.
Yeah.
Because you got to get them out there.
Well, and
It's
you're a threat to go the other way.
Oh,
too, right?
yeah.
that's a big
Give it
part
a
of
shot and see how it works.
Well,
I think it's worth the risk of doing it.
Like McDavid, for sure, because of his skating ability. Of
course.
Right? Like Matthews, not so much. But you can create odd man rushes. Or,
of course, especially with there's one defenseman only usually on the power play.
But that's the question. Are you out there to kill, or are you out there to create?
Yeah.
I guess
Might be
we'll
a bit
find
both,
out. Maybe it's a combination of both. Jay's off today, back in action tomorrow. They took 2 of 3 down at the Trop. They're in the driver's seat. I feel like we've said that a handful of times the last couple of weeks, but feels like they're in a good position right now to at least punch a ticket, and then you find out who they're going to play from there. To chat about it, we're joined now by our TSN MLB analyst here is Steve Phillips. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, guys. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Yesterday, I think, was an example of what the Jays have been waiting for all year, where it was Springer into Bichette, into Vladdy. Springer had that inside the park home run. Vladdy hit 2 home runs. Bo hit a home run. Like, that's basically the combination of offense that they've been waiting for, and probably what they're going to need, Steve, if they're actually going to do any damage come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that. But what I also like is it was Varsho with a couple of hits. It was Merrifield with a couple of hits. That you got length and depth of the lineup, where you're not relying upon just the top 3 guys, which effectively gives you 3 innings per game to score, right? When your top 3 guys in the lineup are the only guys producing, then everybody else, you're wasting innings. And, what they did over the weekend, they took advantage of opportunities. One of the things that they've not been all that good at this year is getting a man in from third base with less than 2 outs. When you get an opportunity to get a cheap run, where an out can get you a run, you've got to take advantage of that. And they hadn't done that. They were ranked 23rd in baseball with getting a man in from third base with less than 2 outs. And then on Friday, with Glasnow on the mound, they ended up loading the bases. They walked in a run. They got hit by a pitch for a run. They got a base hit out of it. They'll take the rally however they can get it, but you've got to get those runs in. They did it. And I'll tell you, like I interviewed Alex Cora today, manager of the Red Sox, and I asked him about the Rays, the Orioles, and the Blue Jays. And he had great things to say about Baltimore and their team, and great things to say about Tampa Bay. He said, but man, Toronto, he said, if they get into the playoffs, I'd like to see what they can do. He said, because they can pitch with anybody with a starting rotation. They got power arms in the bullpen from the left side and right side. He said, and, if they're key guys and the names produced like they should, they're a really scary team. And I think a lot of people look at the Jays that way, that, we've talked all year about them maybe being that sleeping giant, and they've not gotten red hot with it, but they're in a pretty good spot right now. Obviously, I think the way the schedule worked out for them, the Rangers sweeping the Mariners over the weekend, you needed somebody to dominate somebody else, which would open the door. And right now, both Houston and Seattle falling back. And so the Jays are in a pretty good spot. They're going to have to take care of the Yankees. The Yankee team that rallied today came back and beat the Arizona Diamondbacks and walked them off. And so, they're going to have to get themselves prepared to play the Yankees. They took 2 out of 3 from them the last time. If they can just take 2 out of 3 in the next 2 series, they're fine. They're going to end up making the playoffs and, likely end up being the second wild card team, unless Houston or Seattle just sweep the other and then sweep through the final series of the season. But the Jays are certainly sitting in a pretty good spot.
Steve, they had some great offensive production. It's like we talked about the whole summer. Their key guys have to be their key guys. But if they are going to be that team that gets people's attention to, we touched on the beginning of the show, I said I wasn't quite believing in it, but is it just hands in a way Vladdy has to be the guy, like the long ball, the deep threat, and continue the offensive production for this team to really get people's attention and possibly be that team like Phillies last year?
Well, I think they can. I mean, listen, absolutely Vladdy needs to be that. I mean, the fact he had 2 home runs in the game, and what is really, I think, important to think about is, power in a swing, it stems from the feet up and, the kinetic links of, the player strides and, lands on his front toe and then goes to his heel and then rotates his hips and goes up on his back toe. And all of those links are what delivers the bat through the zone. And the fact that he's had a knee injury and those links are working, I think is a really good sign that he's going to be healthy and productive and he's going to be okay. And so I think that's an important thing to notice there. I think the other key thing is Springer. Springer's such a huge postseason performer in his career. His game yesterday, with the inside the park home run, with playing the ball off the wall, throwing out the Curtis Meade kid at second base, the diving catch down the line. I mean, playoff baseball is about making plays. It's about making pitches, having that at bat, making a play on defense, and that's Springer kind of leading the way with sharpened teeth about what the postseason is supposed to look like. And so I think that's a good sign too. But the good teams take advantage of every opportunity they have to score. They tack on runs, and you can tack on runs so that you further separate. So when a team comes back, you've gotten some margin for error for your bullpen. And so, I think in the end, it's not ever one guy, but Vladdy getting it done. And when your best player plays predictably good, it elevates everybody around him in the lineup.
We were talking about this earlier in the hour, Steve, about the American League compared to the National League, where even though the record for Baltimore and Tampa is incredibly impressive, it feels like Atlanta and the Dodgers are a step above. Atlanta's a 100-win team. The Dodgers are going to get there. And I guess what I was leading to was that it feels like the American League is more of a crapshoot, even with all due respect to Baltimore and Tampa. Baltimore's still young. They've stubbed their toe a little bit in September. Tampa's missing some big, big pieces on their roster. Do you have the same impression? Are you projecting more of a crapshoot in the American League?
Well, I think there's more parity in the American League of really good teams. I think the National League, you look at the second, third wild card teams after the Phillies, and I don't see any of those teams being legitimate teams that can make a run. I look at the Astros, if they're the third wild card team, the Blue Jays, the second wild card team, those teams can win the World Series. I don't look at the same thing in the National League. Here's the thing for the Braves. I mean, Max Fried's on the injured list. He could be eligible for the division series dealing with a blister. They lost Charlie Morton to the injured list. He won't be available for that division series. And so they're looking at Strider and Fried and Bryce Elder as their 3 pitchers in the division series. For the Dodgers, Dave Roberts has named Kershaw and Bobby Miller as games 1 and 2, and probably Lance Lynn as game 3. There's nothing about that starting pitching that's overwhelming. Kershaw's a 5-inning guy right now. And I don't love the Dodgers bullpen. So those are 2 teams where the offense has kind of led the way. And that isn't always the best way to win in a short series in the postseason when you're facing the other team's dominating pitchers. And so I think in the National League, the Brewers are a scary team with Burns and Woodruff and Peralta in their rotation, and big arms at the end of the game, and Devin Williams, a dominant closer. They need to score enough. The Phillies, with Nola and Wheeler and whomever else they throw in game 3, which is, Lorenzen or Ranger Suarez, they could be really good too, and a really good and solid offense. And we saw what they did making a run to the World Series. So, I think the American League's more wide open. And honestly, I look at Toronto, and I will tell you, as I said, I've talked to executives around the game. People are afraid of the Jays because you need good starting pitching to win in the postseason. They have that. You need power arms to come out of the bullpen. They have that. And they can play some solid defense, and they have, what is a lineup that when it's clicking is a scary team. And so I think that the American League is more wide open just because I think there's more parity because there's a lot of good teams in the AL.
Are you concerned about Romano's cracked nail?
Yeah. I think you have to be, everything means something right now. And there's not going to be any rest for the weary. You get a day off on Monday, you jump right into the division, the wild card round. And so, it's something that they have to be aware of. They're going to have to manage it. Anytime a guy goes out there and he's limited on maybe not throwing a certain pitch because it's going to affect his nail, he's not nearly as effective. Now, the good news is I love Hicks, and I love him at the end of the game. He's got just that overpowering stuff. Swanson has been good, although I'd rather not have him in the ninth inning if you don't have to. And so, definitely it's always an issue. But I think that there's enough experience around to deal with these nails and blisters and those sorts of things that they should be able to get that toughened up, that skin a little bit to be able to make him okay in the ninth.
I'm getting concerned about our boy Davis Schneider. He's 0 for his last 30.
Yes. Hayes' fault, too.
It possibly is mine. I asked him about his mustache and what kind of...
Steve, this is what he asked him. He said, how big of a slump would you have to go into to shave your mustache? A week later, Here we are.
Well, this will be the answer, won't? Like, if this guy doesn't show up clean shaven, it's never going to happen because 0 for his last 30, he's striking out like a machine. I don't know. It's concerning, Steve. This is a blip on the radar or what?
No, I think it's baseball, man. This is what happens. And, what goes up must come down. It always happens. When somebody's playing at a 1,400 OPS, they've got a slump coming. There's just regression toward the mean. Nobody's that good. And so it's going to come back to the pack a little bit. Springer's, I think, had 2 0 for 30 runs this season or 0 for 25-plus runs this season. And it's what guys go through. When you don't play as much or you're going to get sad if you're not hitting, then it sort of lingers. You think about it. You obsess about it. Listen, I had 7 years in the minor league obsessing about 0 for 30 slumps, trust me. But the thing is, maybe he'll get hot, pop out of it just at the right time. And sometimes it's a flare, a bloop, or something that gets a guy back on track again. But this is just what happens in baseball. And so it doesn't mean he's not going to still be really good in his career. It doesn't mean he's not going to get 3,000 hits in his career. It just means that this is that window like everybody has at one point where you look like you're the best hitter that ever played and you can look like you're the worst hitter that ever played, and you're really neither of those. It's just a moment in time.
With Steve Phillips. So at this point, if the Jays get in, they're either going to Tampa or Minnesota. We know that. And even though the Jays just took 2 of 3 at the Trop, everyone understands you prefer to play Minnesota. Now, you're not going to test your luck and try to avoid certain situations or lose a game on purpose. But with 6 games to go, I'm curious, Steve, how you think the planning will be taking place this week, specifically around trying to set up the rotation, where I believe Gausman is slated to pitch the last game of the regular season. If that's a meaningful game, clearly he pitches. But let's say they clinch on Friday. How do you think they're going to work this out to try to set up the rotation for the wild card round?
Yeah, I think they just immediately, find somebody else to slide in and start on Saturday and Sunday. And save the pitchers for Tuesday and Wednesday. I do. I think it's the right way to go. I think you've got to protect yourself and make sure that you've got your key guys lined up to make those starts in game 1 and 2. The National League has a little bit better this year. The National League plays game 1 and then they have an off day. Then they play game 2 and they have an off day. Then they play 3 and 4 and they have an off day. So in the National League, you can actually only use 3 starters, and they can all pitch on full rest, where the American League plays games 1 and 2 on Saturday and Sunday. They're off Monday, then they play Tuesday, Wednesday. They're off Thursday and play Friday, where you one guy can pitch twice on full rest. And so it's a little bit different there, but I think you got to line Gausman up for game 1. There's no question about that. Then you figure out after that how you're going to line up in that rotation. Personally, I would go Bassett and Barrios in the rotation. and not Ryu or Kikuchi there, and let them sort of be the long guys to piggyback in case, if for some reason, your right-handed starters get knocked out early, coming in with a lefty where the other team has put lefties in the lineup early in the game, that you can make the other manager make some moves by bringing in a left-handed long man to be able to sort of flip the lineup around and maybe make the matchups late in the game better if your offense comes back and gives you a chance to win.
It's going to be a fun week, Steve. Strap in, buddy. We'll do it again later in the week. Thank you for this.
Terrific. Can't wait, guys. You got it. Have a good week.
Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. 6 more left for the Jays.
This poor Davis Schneider.
Schneider's it's 0 for 30. He didn't play yesterday. He may show up clean-shaven, no shades.
Is it Cinderella? Like
I don't know.
Clock is struck midnight
like Steve
here?
said, it was so good, so electric. That first series at Fenway, guy had a 1,400 OPS for a long time. His wins above replacement have been through the roof. At some point, this guy was going to really struggle.
I just wish I had that as part of the arsenal to a coach. It's hockey, man. Don't worry about it.
I know. Don't worry, dude. I haven't scored in 30 games.
You suck lately. Don't worry. It's hockey. I'll get it back.
Everything will turn around. Everything will balance out. It's all good. All right. Luke Wilson in studio in about 15 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Luke Wilson in studio in about 10 minutes. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Double shot Monday nighters tonight. I love it. 2 football games tonight. We'll have 2 different picks. We'll look back on yesterday with Luke. Chris Johnston still to come later this afternoon. Leafs are on the ice. They're playing tonight. Right? We had a Leaf game yesterday. They're playing Ottawa again tonight.
What's the roster look like for tonight? I didn't see.
Some big boys are going. Matthews and Marner are going. Bertuzzi, the top line. The goalies, Martin Jones and Joseph Wall. I think that's interesting that the 2 of them are going to play.
Well, there's the battle for backup right there, right? Because both of them require waivers.
Right.
Now, Jones is a veteran. Wall is the goalie of the future, or right now. So there'll be a little bit of a battle.
I think that's a legit battle. It feels like Ty would go to Joseph Wall.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, as it should.
Yeah, he's a young kid who played well last year, and he was played in the All-Star game. I'm not sure if he won top goalie. I should check that, but I think he did last year.
Why does Ty go to
Dustin
Joseph Wall?
Kid
Like,
Chicago,
if they're having
right?
a competition for backup, why is the tie to Joseph Wall? Because he's been here and he's being groomed. I don't know. I kind of like the journeyman backup guy that
he requires waivers, though. Oh, if he's on waivers, somebody will grab him, and that's. So now you're going to lose him for nothing, and you've drafted
what's Martin
him.
Jones? Doesn't Martin Jones need waivers?
He does, but I think Martin Jones at this stage of his career, there might be other Martin Jones out there on waivers.
Right, you would think so.
Sense.
Now, I guess the fear is, and it's unpredictable, if a couple of teams have a major goaltending injury suffered in camp, then it becomes more likely they're going to pluck a guy like Martin Jones.
Right.
But if teams get through the preseason with their 2-pack of goalies already, the likelihood of them claiming someone they could have had on July 1st that they didn't take seems unlikely because whoever acquires them, right, he's got to be on the roster. If they want to send him down, he's got to go back on waivers.
Yeah,
what's the point? It just becomes a 3-ring circus at that point.
Jones's cap hit, I think, is quite low.
Yes,
So,
both of them would be, I would assume.
Jones is at $875 and Wall's on an entry-level deal. But Martin Jones at $875, I think some team might take a flyer on that.
It is fairly economical. I guess what they have to here's why I would say Ty goes to Wall if they believe Wall has a chance of being a legit starter in this league.
Correct. I don't think they want to lose him.
No, like in Martin Jones, it's been established as a depth piece now or a backup, right? Like that's where at one point he was a starter in his career, but now he's either a backup or a third guy. If they feel like Wall can be a starter, you don't want to lose that.
No, I think you're right. Ty goes to Wall, but I just think that they would love to get one of them through waivers.
Yes.
Put it that way. So you've got a 3-pack of guys who can play because Samsonov had multiple injuries last year. Multiple.
Do you think Kyle Dubas would put a claim in just to put a claim in?
Just to jam up.
Because remember how often he got jammed up? Like the Leafs got jammed up on more goalie claims on waivers
I think just
than any
on
team in
waivers,
league
period.
history.
I think they've lost like something crazy, like 14 guys on waivers in the last 7 years.
Everybody picks up those old Leafs, like they're Amadio went to Vegas,
Cup
and
winner.
then
Was it Josh Levo?
Levo.
Everybody they put on waivers was gone. It was just like, what the hell's going on?
Wouldn't that be wild if Dubas said, "I'll pick that up"? Don't take that guy off your hands.
Did Marchman get traded or was he a waiver?
Marchman got traded.
For Yevgeny Malgin.
That was a Geno Malgin for Marchman deal. That was not the best.
Not the best. That's
not the best.
Did you guys see the Jets fan yesterday yelling at their quarterback and his giblets came out?
Yeah, the New York Jets.
I did see that.
I'm watching it right now, actually.
That quarterback's having it. Like, they've got to get a new quarterback there. He was throwing the ball away, terrified.
Yeah, Zach Wilson is terrified. He's terrified to make a mistake, and all he's doing is making a mistake.
I would have appreciated an honest answer from the coach saying, we got a serious problem here. It's not believable hearing him say we still love this guy.
No,
we don't.
But after the game yesterday, he said something of the likes of, it's the best we have. And then today, I think he circled back and was like, no, it's still his team, because they realize we don't have another option. Like in New York, I think they're punting on the season, and they're just going to hope Rodgers recovers and returns.
Wow.
Yeah. The guy whose teeth came out, he had like 2 teeth in his whole yap. Anyway, we'll have a full breakdown.
We got to talk
later
about teeth, because this Rex Ryan's teeth are ridiculous.
Aren't they the loudest teeth on TV?
They were jarring yesterday. We got to talk.
Hour 2 coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN app.